little technical difficulty there. Hopefully we get some of you back here in the comments. I thought there was a good little chat going on there about our draft. But let's go back to the draft board here and just see where we are. So we're heading into the final round. Mace just kicked off the final round with his guy. Of course, had to get a Wisconsin Badger.
Yeah, I got 2 Wisconsin guys in my 6.
Matt Henningsen. I would, if I was going Wisconsin guys.
I got to stay on brand. I mean, you know.
I would have gone Faion Hicks. He's my favorite of the 2 Wisconsin guys.
Wow. Is that who you're going with?
It is not.
Okay.
It is not. And there aren't any...
I just saw him get beat way too much.
Okay.
That's the, early last year, the Badgers had some secondary problems, and let's just say he was contributing a little bit to them. He got better as the season went on, although, as a lot of Nebraska fans will tell you, when he broke up the pass to beat the Huskers last November, he should have been called for PI.
Wow.
He did grab. I will admit he did grab. As I told the people that we know that sit in front of the seats that my wife's family has that I was in, pulled a fast one.
I like that. It's called veteran knowledge.
Right, exactly.
On his part or my part? His part to get away with it, I'd say.
Exactly. If you can pull it off and get away with it.
You can literally pull.
Yeah, but you know what? You're not going to get away with that as a rookie in the NFL.
That's
he's got to clean up his technique. I mean, if he sticks, I think he would stick as, on the 53, I think he'd stick as the 52nd or 53rd guy and probably be inactive. That's okay.
Or maybe he contributes on special teams.
That'd be his way to the roster.
Well, it'd be him and Mathis, and I'd probably give Mathis a little bit of an edge right
That's
now.
fair.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
All right. I'm pretty surprised I'm going to be able to make this pick here.
No, I have one guy that I really want.
Yes. I'm pretty happy that I'm going to get a full-time starter and the Broncos'
different guy.
number 1 target in free agency this year. Give me Randy Gregory.
I like it. A lot
of people in the comments saying Randy.
And the
Get Randy with it.
The talent's there. Ryan, you may not capitalize at all on this year if he's not able to stay healthy. I mean, he's the one that entering this season between him and Bradley Chubb, neither of them or only one of them isn't healthy.
Here's what I'll say about Randy Gregory. And we've talked a lot about, his availability. But from injury, he's only missed 10 games in his career due to injury. So he's had his other issues. I'd like to believe that those issues are behind him. Who doesn't miss, one out of every 6 games due to injury in the NFL? I mean,
No, it's not really like that.
I would say it's about the average.
No, but it's not 1 out of every 6
I know
games.
what you're saying.
He missed, 5 games last year?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So
I mean, that's about 1 out of every 3.
But over the course of his career, I think
he's just trying to twist it in his favor.
No, I'm just saying
he's injuries
really haven't been that big of a problem. It's when you combine the injuries with the suspension that it's like, wow, availability has been a huge problem for him. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna put my name on him that he will not get suspended, and I'll roll the dice that he doesn't get injured.
He's a great story if he can steer clear of future suspensions. This is a great story. This is also George Payton's biggest roll of the dice by far that he's made on the job.
He's gambling.
Yep, he certainly is.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Also, he feels like a guy who wouldn't take a gamble that he doesn't feel really good about.
So far.
But I felt really good about Avs -1.5 last night.
No.
It happens to the best of us.
It does.
I mean, it was the gamble he had to take because I think, for example, and I know that they were considering all the edges. In terms of scheme and in terms of recent performance, Hassan Reddick would have probably made at least as much, if not more, sense. The problem is Hassan Reddick really wanted to go home to Philly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
exactly.
It wasn't going to happen.
And for the final pick in the draft right here, I'm taking a gamble. But I'm taking a gamble on a guy that could be the secret weapon to this offense. He could be Russell Wilson's favorite target. Not the guy who's targeted the most, but I'm going deep threat KJ Hamler here. And with the last pick it's when you can take a gamble. So, Mace, I like how you took a gamble on a guy who's very under the radar. Ryan, you took a gamble on Randy Gregory, and I'm taking a gamble on KJ Hamler because there is a chance that he does nothing this year because he tweaks his hamstring a couple of times. I'm touching wood for that. There's also a chance that he leads the team in touchdowns. Now, that's probably a stretch, but he could certainly lead the team in big plays, and I love getting that with the last pick.
You know what? I mean, really, like, if I look back at my draft, maybe I should have tried to get Jerry Jeudy earlier because you got him in round 3, because that's the only one where I think, man, I really would have liked to have had him. Because if we're talking about kind of a my guys draft, I'm thinking of, like, who are some guys I've really defended?
I know. The funny thing is...
I've been defending Jerry Jeudy a lot.
The funny thing is I have too, and I'm kind of over it. I've defended Jerry Jeudy to the point where now I'm kind of tired of defending him.
But haven't you got to the point where now you can stop defending him? Because I think if halfway through the season now he's not producing and there's even some social media stuff going on, I don't think anyone's really going to be defending him anymore. So it's like you're almost losing. Like you've gone so far and now you're losing him when it's supposed to pay off.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I don't have the energy to defend him again. You know what I'm saying? If push came to shove. I will say I saw that people are getting mad about his comment about Russell Wilson's passes.
Really?
Yeah.
They'll get mad about anything right now because he said, yeah, he throws normal passes, though, right? What they're supposed to do.
What is he supposed to do? The problem is, like, people are looking at that comment and saying, oh, well, he's throwing shade at Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, blah, blah,
exactly.
blah. You know, sometimes you're not making a comment to throw shade. You're making a comment just because you're talking about the guy that is there. People are choosing to find the shade in that rather than just taking it at the value of saying he was asked about the quarterback he's got.
It is funny though that he said he throws normal passes there, right, where they're supposed to be. Like, that's not normal. You got to play with Tua and Mac Jones in college, and so you got very spoiled. Normal
is defined by your own experience, right?
And that could be true, but like think about like Courtland Sutton. Like, who was he playing with in college? He was probably came in and was like,
trying to think who.
Right.
These guys are great.
Was Garrett Gilbert there while he was there? Did he miss him?
Seems like he would have been a little late.
I think they might have missed by a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have the mental Rolodex to know the history of SMU quarterbacks beyond like Garrett Gilbert, Don Meredith, I believe back in the day, unless he went to TCU, I'm not sure. Lance McElhenney, who back in the Pony Express days was the quarterback. That's pretty much it for me.
There you go.
And the chat's going crazy with the highest undrafted guy in this. People are saying Bradley Chubb.
Yeah. Yes, and let's talk about the honorable mentions here in just a second. First, want to remind you guys to come down here, hang out at the DNVR bar. Tomorrow is probably going to be close to another record setter. Saturday, Avs. They're on the road, so you're not going to lose out on anyone who's going to the game. It's going to be awesome here. Make sure you get here early, but even if not, just make yourself at home. Like, I always see people walk in and they see that all the tables are taken, and they kind of like stunned for a second. Just walk in, go to the bar, get yourself a drink, find a place to stand, and you'll probably see me roaming around.
Exactly, and a fun afternoon game. I love it, and I love what DraftKings is doing, giving you $150 in free bets by just betting $5 on any moneyline NBA game. That's all you have to do. It doesn't have to win. You get $150 in your account, and do it today. Bet on a game tonight so that you can use that $150 on the Avs, or at least part of that $150 on the Avs tomorrow. And, of course, use the code DNVR over at DraftKings Sportsbook in order to get this offer. Also, potentially get a sign-up bonus of $1,000 as well. Use that code DNVR over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
I also want to tell you about Light Shade Dispensary. If you want to get 25% off your purchase at Light Shade, use the code DNVR. You're going to get 25% off. You can shop online and go to their website at Oh shoot, it's not on here. Is it lightshade.com?
Yep.
I didn't know if it was Lightshade or lightshadedispensary.com. Go to lightshade.com, get 25% off. Use the code DNVR for a purchase. You've got Escape Artist over there. That's the highest award topical brand in Colorado. Prioritizes quality and consistency with ratios available in 1-to-1 and high ratio CBD 20-to-1. They will have you covered with Escape Artist over at Lightshade. They've got 800 creams. That is Escape Artist's highest potency creams available. They penetrate for deep muscle tissue discomfort. They're non-greasy, non-staining, fast absorbing, and take effect in 10 minutes or less with benefits that last up to 2 to 3 hours. You can get all that at Lightshade Dispensary. And to order at Lightshade, go to lightshade.com, use the code DNVR to get 25% off, and then go to your nearest Lightshade location and pick it up. They've got 11 convenient Denver Metro and Aurora locations, including one at 6th Avenue and Federal Boulevard. That's their biggest location right now. So check all that out, lightshade.com, Lightshade Dispensary.
Real quick on DraftKings. Do you got anything for me tonight? I got to do bets in a couple hours, and I'm a little...
You're supposed to be the expert on this.
I know. I guess I could go with Rockies. They've got Chad Kuhl, as I'm calling him, Cy Young Chad, on the mound tonight. 2-0, 1.3 ERA. Feel good about that.
Yeah, that is pretty good. And do you have Avs 1.5 tomorrow?
Probably.
I mean, you're probably looking at tomorrow's games on today's show, right?
Yep.
We have Rapids tomorrow too. Rockies, Rapids, and Avs.
Rockies, Rapids, and Avs tomorrow, all in action at once.
Wow, that is fantastic.
It's going to be a banger of a day here at the DNVR bar.
It certainly will be.
All right.
Really quick. If you are wanting to vote on who won, we're going to be dropping this on our Twitter, DNVR_Broncos on Twitter, where you'll be able to find the poll. We want you to vote, and on Monday we'll know the champ.
I do have a poll going on YouTube right now with who's watching live.
Okay.
Do you want those results right now? Or
There's
until the end of the show?
They can vote on a poll on YouTube.
I love it. So make sure to jump in and vote on the live poll as well. And of course, if you're tuning in on Twitter, hop over to YouTube, where not only you can vote on the poll, the stream's better, the chat is better. It's easier for us to see you guys commenting. Also, when you're there, hit us with a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on alerts. We'd really appreciate all of it.
Man, I love my team.
I love my team.
I know who's winning the poll, though.
Oh.
Let's just say I'm losing right now.
Okay.
But I knew I would.
We could have figured that
I can
one
kind
out.
of tell from this.
There are only 24 votes, though.
Oh, come on. We need more than
So
that.
it's early.
Come on.
right.
Let's get some more votes here.
Let's get some more votes in there. All right, honorable mentions. This can be as high or as low on the roster as you want. Just anyone that you feel like, if graphics that had 10 slots weren't ugly, who would have made it onto your team?
Yeah, I would have technically had the next pick, and we're not claiming these guys since we're not doing that. But Bradley Chubb, he would have been given like the $250,000 signing bonus as an undrafted free agent. He would have been my first priority, and people are bashing us for not taking him. But he's certainly valuable.
My question to those people is, who do you take off for Bradley Chubb? I mean, you could definitely take off Matt Henningsen.
Yeah, but I didn't think.
I know.
I thought the spirit of the draft was our guys, not.
Right.
Yeah,
it is.
no,
100%.
If it's best,
It certainly
if
was.
it's different than best 18 Broncos players.
Right. Probably the guys that we all drafted last. I think some people would have said Bradley Chubb over Randy Gregory, and I think some people certainly would have said Bradley Chubb, your starting outside linebacker, over your fourth string wide receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
I would just politely disagree.
And that's fair. I'm just saying I think that's kind of where the argument
obviously
would have
you do too, or else you would have picked him.
Exactly. Yes.
My next pick would have been Kendall Hinton.
Nice. That would have been cool.
Wow, that would have been really good for the poll, Mace.
I do worry about
That would've
him
been
making
pandering.
the team, though.
Yeah.
Okay, who's his competition?
Well,
Montreal.
Seth Williams.
it's Montreal, Washington, who would be on my
Montreal. I think Montreal. You can kind of put him into a separate box there.
So you think they keep 6 wide receivers, including him?
Yes.
Okay.
I do
That's
too,
fair.
and I do think Kendall makes the team.
I
with
think
that spot.
I think Kendall Hinton is competing with Seth Williams, Travis Fulgham,
And he'll beat them.
and
Yeah, I was gonna
Tyree
say,
Cleveland.
yeah.
And I think he's better than. I think he's
got
better
the
than those.
upper hand.
It's significant that he was out there with Russell Wilson.
Yeah. I just went
was
back
part
and
of that.
looked, and they did. The original 53 had 5 last year, including Deontay Spencer, which is kind of crazy.
But
Yeah.
maybe even though they're really heavy at tight end right now, are they going to go light at tight end? Are they not? Are you not going to have that tight end / fullback?
Saubert back in the mix.
Yeah, potentially your starter.
Could be
your week one
week
starter,
one.
which is crazy.
I mean, it's maybe you go 3 tight ends, or maybe you go 4, maybe you go 3 run. You can have your 3 running backs. I think with Montreal, Washington, it's almost like they're going to go 4 specialists.
Right, you put them in the specialist category.
Bobin Moyer, Sam Martin, Brandon McManus. That's a category. And then you're deciding whether you keep 25 offensive guys or 24 offensive guys.
One guy I really, really like on this team that I just didn't have room for in this draft is Caden Stearns.
Yeah.
He would absolutely be on an extended team of mine. It's something about the maybe I'm so used to watching like Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon play that those guys who just fly out there, that gets me excited every time. And Caden Stearns absolutely flies around.
Mr. Efficient, one of the most efficient players in the NFL last year, and he should certainly get a bigger role this year. A guy, and we have
not if KJ has anything to say about
that's for sure. And he better be there on every single play, or else my question is going to be a little more valid in his mind. A guy who, man, if we were truly going my guys, I probably would have picked, and it actually could have been pandering, and I strayed away from that, is Alberto. I love the talent that he is, but I just couldn't go that way because he may not even make this team. He could be one of the guys that's traded for a day 3 pick before the season starts, just because I don't think this organization views him that high at all. But I love Alberto's talent.
In the spirit of my guys, if I'd picked another tight end, it would have been Tomlinson. That Jack,
I do actually really
he just
like
mauls
Tomlinson.
people.
Yeah,
he's basically a tackle in a tight end's number.
Yep.
This is one of the main reasons why I didn't consider him with my last pick is just because I'm worried about what the hell the Broncos are doing with him. But Baron Browning.
Didn't even think about him, and that's not because of how I feel. It's exactly what you said, how the Broncos feel.
Would Jonathan Cooper have kind of been in your mix as well? Or
Maybe
just Browning?
late pick. If we did 10 rounds, maybe he would have been up there in the 10th.
With drafting Bonito in the 2nd, it knocked all of those guys. The Malik Reed, too, my guy, I really like him. It knocked all those guys way down, in my opinion. Cody in the chat, I see you. Appreciate you.
Only 1 corner was drafted.
Yeah. And for me, we did have people asking about Ronald Darby. He just really, it seems like a 1-year. He only has 1 more year here.
And it didn't feel like he didn't make his impact felt when he played last year.
He's a good number 2 cornerback.
Yeah.
And you feel good about him being number 2 cornerback, but in terms of swag, vibes, playmaking ability, maybe he actually does end up making plays this year because teams are throwing at him a lot more. Yeah.
I would have maybe considered Kwan Williams. Just because he plays with
him.
an edge, and I like that.
Oh, man, and you talk about the guy that can do it all. Force fumbles, sacks, interceptions, hard hits, a tackler. He's everything.
The only thing he doesn't have in his drawer is being a great quote.
Oh.
Yeah, he's
I'll tell you,
he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't say it, but in terms of quotability, says absolutely nothing.
And the funny thing about those guys, and Mesha, you're right about him not being a great quote, is typically it's because they're pissed to be there. They don't really like the media. They don't want to talk. He had a smile on his face the whole time, but it was as short could be.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He certainly was not Kyle Fuller. I can guarantee you
he's
that.
He's pleasant.
Right.
He's pleasant. He just doesn't have a lot to say publicly. That's fine. Some guys, that's just how they operate.
Yep.
All right, last thing I want to do in this is give everyone a chance to call their shot. Someone who was not drafted here, who will be drafted in this next season.
I like that question. That is tough.
Can I give mine?
Yeah.
Iyoma Uwazurike.
That's really good. I considered him for my last pick.
Yeah, I think that he's a guy who comes in and just instantly becomes loved. Like he might not play a ton, but he's gonna play. He's gonna make plays, and I think people are gonna love him.
He's kind of my guy from this draft. If I were to have drafted someone from this draft, I think it would have been him.
Yeah, I'm excited about him.
Any.
Yes.
As if people haven't mastered the name, call him.
So are we including the honorable mentions, or we're not counting those either?
Yeah, you could. Whoever, someone that wasn't drafted just now, who will get drafted next season in this draft.
Randy Gregory.
He was picked.
Oh, wait, he's
Yeah.
Bradley Chubb then. Sorry.
All right.
Ah,
Bradley Chubb.
man, that is a gamble in my eyes on if he'll be picked or if he'll be around next year. And Ryan, I'm trying to go someone that we haven't even talked about, but Caden Stearns is the guy for me. Kareem Jackson, I don't think he hits the market for a month next year and then comes back for $1.5 million, half of what he's making this year. I think he's a guy that this is his last year on the team, and I do think it is Caden Stearns that takes over that starting full-time safety role next to Justin Simmons. And we're probably talking about drafting him probably just a little bit after where Kareem was drafted this year, 3rd or 4th round.
I like it. This has been interesting. I'll be interested to see who wins.
Me too. Just vote for Zach, whether you're live or whether you're on Twitter. I appreciate it.
Don't beg, Zach.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm above asking for your vote.
You're above that. You don't have to do that.
No, it's just like Ryan when he talks about national championships. What do you say? A voided national championship still tastes as good?
I said the only thing better than winning the national championship is winning the national championship and having it voided.
Yep, exactly. So
Sorry, the
right.
only there's the
Flip
only
it.
thing in second place behind it.
Yep, and so exact same thing. I don't care how I get the win. You know, the Patriots, they cheated a lot. They still got the wins. They still have the Super Bowls. Vote for me. I appreciate you. But guys, this was very interesting. And there was something very interesting that I took from behind the Broncos. And I'm actually surprised. Of course, the Broncos do the series Behind the Broncos where they take us behind the scenes. They started doing it last year when George Paton became general manager. And typically, it's a really cool inside look, especially for fans. But from my perspective, I typically don't take anything out of it. There's nothing that I learned that we didn't know. Typically there's a great quote or something, but nothing we didn't learn.
And it's by design.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't want you to know. And in fact, in Behind the Broncos yesterday, they threw a few F-bombs in there to show that, George Paton's that tough, edgy guy. Nathaniel Hackett brings the fire.
I think it was more they just wanted it to feel like a real look.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just teasing a little bit there. And it was really funny. They when George or Nathaniel were talking about guys that the Broncos didn't draft, they not only bleeped out their names, but they blurred out the mouth so you couldn't even lip read. But the one thing that I learned in this, was tight end. They wanted Trey McBride with the number 64th overall pick. And the reason that I say that, and that I'm surprised that this quote was even included in here, was right before the Broncos or right around the time when the Broncos were thinking about their 64th overall pick. So they were at least 5 spots away from that. Here is what George Paton said. He said to Nathaniel Hackett, he said, the tight ends, like if one of those guys is 5 away, let's go get him. Just F it. Let's go get him. So then I take a step back and I say, okay, so tight ends. He mentioned a tight end. If one of those guys is 5 picks away, so right around pick 59, let's go trade up and get him. There's only one tight end off the board at that time, and that was Trey McBride at pick 55. Jelani Woods, he was there. He went pick number 74. Greg Dulcich, he was there. He went pick 80 to the Broncos. Broncos didn't trade up to number 59. Broncos didn't draft a tight end at number 64. So to me, when George Paton says the tight ends, he's saying the tight end.
That's interesting. Why wouldn't he have just because it's not like he was hiding it for the camera. Why wouldn't he have just said it? If Trey's there at 60, or if Trey's there with 5 picks to go, let's go get him.
Maybe he said it and it was not used because they didn't want to provide that.
But I'm saying in that specific sentence, why did he say it that way? It's kind of weird.
That's a good question. Maybe then he got cold feet once Trey was off, and he meant, okay, well maybe not the tight ends. Maybe I just meant Trey.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they love Dulcich that much.
What's interesting, in the first round, near the end of the first round, if not right after the first round, when they're still in the war room, Hackett said, we may be able to get Dulcich in the 3rd. He said that to Paton. So they clearly were thinking about Dulcich.
And they were thinking about tight ends a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I assume they just said, once they didn't see tight ends going off, then they circle back around to the teams that they thought were going to take tight ends. They're like, well, we only have 2 that would maybe take them in the 2nd round. So then maybe we can get Dulcich in the 3rd. And if that was their intelligence, they would have been right.
And maybe they sort of looked at it. The Chiefs, for example, on day 1 went defense.
Right.
And didn't go for a wide receiver. I wonder if that conversation might have been different if the Chiefs had gone wide receiver, because then you probably would have assumed, okay, there might be a decent chance here they go tight end.
Yep.
And get up and okay, and since they've already filled one pass catcher hole, but they chose not to. So
it's
because
interesting.
there was a lot of smoke about the Chiefs and McBride leading up to the draft.
I feel like one thing I wanted to do is give George Paton a lot of credit for being patient, because I think patience might be the best quality you can have as a general manager in the draft.
Would you say it's a virtue?
It is, and I just think that
'Cause that's a saying.
if you get a little, if you get too jumpy, you might end up making moves that you didn't even need to make.
Right.
And so like when he just stays pat at 64 and then gets Nick Bonito, who I don't think he was selling that for the camera. They really did not think they were going to get Nick Bonito at 64.
He even said, "Holy F! I thought we had to trade up to get him."
Right. Exactly. So like you get rewarded for your patience. I think trading up to take a tight end would have been a bad move.
Even Trey McBride?
If Trey McBride didn't play an hour away from here,
How did you feel about
everyone
trading up
would
for
say
a running
yes.
back last year? Because there are a lot of people who say, kind of in terms of the draft capital, effectively giving up a late first round pick in draft capital for Javonte Williams, that maybe wasn't the most valuable use of assets.
Yeah, I didn't mind it there, and they were obsessed with Javonte, so they went and got him.
Got to be a difference maker. Got to be special.
I just think like you once again were able to just sit back and you got Dulcich in the third without giving up anything. We'll see how big of a difference that ends up being. I got both of them in my dynasty rookie draft.
Not only
there you
they
go.
traded down and picked Dulcich.
I was going to
I mean,
say...
not only they stand pat, they moved.
Good call,
They rolled the dice and said, "All right, well, we're gonna hope that he's still there."
And then
which is interesting because how much then did they value Dulcich if they really wanted him, but they were willing to move down a few picks and take the chance on him not falling to them.
Also, Zach, potentially when he said the tight ends, he could have been talking about Trey McBride, Jelani Woods, but they never expected Bonito to be there. So as soon as Bonito started slipping, they said, okay, well maybe let's just stay back here.
Potentially, but Jelani Woods was there. He was
sure.
available for them at not only 59 but 64 as well. I'm convinced that it was Trey
it
because
makes
of
a lot
this
of
conversation. Although it could have, and I guess the fair point could be it was just a flippant comment. I don't think George Paton in the war room, it's not like they're talking all the time. It's pretty intense at times. And when George talks, it typically has a purpose. It could have been a flippant comment. Or you're right. It could have been Trey McBride or Nick Bonito, and they just saw the tight ends slipping, so they thought the tight ends might slip further than Bonito.
Right.
So I guess that's a fair point, is maybe it was Bonito, then Trey McBride. But to me, Trey clearly was very close to the top.
It's very clear they loved Trey.
Right.
Which is so interesting to me. And it actually excites me a little bit because of why I didn't think they would be so high on Trey McBride. As I said before the draft, if they'd pick him, then I'm cool with it because it means that they're taking a totally different approach than I expected them to. But as I talked about before the draft, Trey McBride is a middle-of-the-field monster. That is where he gets his work done. And that's actually different than Greg Dulcich a little bit. Greg Dulcich gets his work done down the field. And I thought, okay, based on the patterns that we've seen from Russell Wilson, I just don't think they're going to love a middle-of-the-field monster guy because Russell Wilson doesn't love the middle of the field. But the fact that they loved Trey McBride either to me means they thought middle of the field, out wide, vertical, he can do it all. Right. Or it meant we're going to try and add an element to Russell's game that he didn't really use much in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And open up the offense even more, give Russ even more to work with. And one more thing from behind the Broncos about Dulcich yesterday was one of the things that Hackett said behind the scenes to Peyton a couple of times was Dulcich brings something that we don't have. What do you think it is? Is it purely just the fact that he's an all-around tight end, more so of an all-around tight end? Is it that they actually truly think he's a way better receiving tight end than Albert O? I mean, because they can't think he's a better blocker than Eric Tomlinson, at least right now.
No. The thing that he brings, maybe it is. It's just that he does both.
And he can be on the field, and you're not tipping your hand if it's a block or a run or a pass.
I think you are.
Yeah, I agree, especially right now.
Right now, today, you're hoping that a year from now you're not.
He has long hair.
Yeah, the hair
Something
game
they
is
didn't
something they
have.
don't have. No, well, Eric Tomlinson does have long hair.
Yeah, he does.
But not curly hair.
Yeah, not as
See,
beautiful.
the thing that Dulcich has is the Weird Al Yankovic locks going for him.
I kind of feel
true.
bad that people keep making that comp. If I were
Why?
him, I would change
Weird-
up my look.
Why? Weird Al's a genius.
Yes, and he's not exactly winning any modeling contests.
So, who cares? That's not what life is about.
I'm not saying it is. He's
I mean,
very
you-
successful,
you-
but I don't want to
yeah,
look like him.
Give Greg. You should have a picture where you give Greg Dulcich an accordion, and just complete
just
it.
really buy into it?
Have him, lean into the Weird Al comp.
Yeah, if I were him, I wouldn't. But
I mean, Weird Al Yankovic made one of the greatest cult comedies of all time, UHF, before your time.
yes, that is. Okay. Anything else from the behind the Broncos?
No, that was it. A lot of F-bombs being thrown out.
I like that.
Yep. Yep.
real.
A little chippy in there.
It's raw.
Yep.
Taking us inside. And you know what? I actually do want to give them credit. That series has been the best thing I've ever seen made by using the access that they have. I think they've done an amazing job making that come to life and making it must-see internet TV. If you're a Broncos fan, you got to watch it.
Yep.
And I think they've done a great job with that. So hats off to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. They just won a Webby for the Peyton Manning thing, and Peyton hinted that he is going to make a cameo in their next schedule release next week, and that it features another star. My guess is that star is Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
How corny can it be?
Okay, here's the thing, though. I understand it won a Webby, but it failed at the basic point of the video, which is revealing the schedule. You don't see the actual schedule until the very end.
Yeah, the worst part of it was the actual schedule release.
It's an entertaining video, but
Yeah.
it failed. But it failed in its function. Telling you the schedule in a crisp and expeditious way. You had to fast forward all the way to the end. So
You're right.
I'm like, okay, this is great. It's funny, but
Peyton
it
Manning
didn't do the job of the video.
No.
much like he did on the field. He covers up a lot of holes.
Yeah, it's so
I mean,
true.
maybe the lesson I'll learn is that when they pump this out this year to just quickly scroll to the end.
Right.
I give them a hell of a lot more credit for the building the Broncos series or behind the Broncos series than I do for just like calling up Peyton Manning and be like, hey, will you do this video for us?
Right.
I give him credit for that because that is knowing the obstacles that football
Yes.
operations puts up. Because generally speaking, the answer when you request this sort of thing is typically no. I think it actually says a lot about George Payton because I think this whole thing began when they turned the page from John Elway guiding the football ops and were searching for a new GM.
Literally right away.
That was the beginning of this series.
And
So it was just like it was almost like, okay, Elway's not in charge day to day. Let's set a new paradigm here organizationally.
And what's cool is a lot of football guys would say this does no good for me. It can only do me harm. Mm-hmm. And they would actually be right.
Yeah. They got guys like me picking out
Right,
some things
exactly.
in it.
From a football standpoint, if you're one of those tunnel vision football guys, you could say this does nothing for me. The same way that like when Jared Bednar says telling you guys my lineups before the game does nothing for, he's actually right.
Right.
And I can't even get mad about it. But for the organization and for George Payton to say like doesn't have to be that serious. Let's do something for the fans.
Yep.
I have a lot of respect for that.
Big time. And it's kind of funny because John did leak some information a lot of times. George is a complete opposite, yet they're the complete opposite when it comes to this type of thing too.
Do you think he gets last review or does he have someone that he trusts?
I think Patrick Smythe gets a pretty big review of it.
Well, I know he does, but I would just be curious if like George says I want to see it before it goes
I think
out.
George trusts Patrick 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
But either way, it's definitely getting a pretty fine-tooth comb review. Just as like every time they mic up a guy, I mean that obviously is reviewed because I can tell you from working in that building when they do the mic'd up, many of the best mic'd up moments did not make it to the video.
Oh, I bet.
Of course.
Because they weren't the most team friendly. And I'm just
Hey, they were dropping F-bombs yesterday. Maybe they'll start to
No, it
that.
wasn't about the F-bombs. It was just things, because players will sometimes kind of, talk about the guys on the field. They'll even talk about their teammates.
Love it.
And sometimes they will. It was like the whole, like Vaughn, when kind of a hot mic caught Vaughn talking about Teddy, right? That was, and that was not something that Vaughn kind of intended because he wasn't mic'd up, but it just happened to be there. Like,
right,
it just happened to be there. And it's like, oh, well, what is he saying about all the other quarterbacks he's played with, including Drew Lock? Kind of like Jerry Jeudy makes the comment this past week, and, he's throwing shade at Drew.
Yeah. Some stuff is like great, and the public just can't handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, they can't handle the heat.
Well, it just it isn't worth the headache that would be created by something great being put out in there. I had a friend who worked for CU and interviewed a player, and there was a part from the interview that they made this really cool hype video from it, but there was a part from the interview that they just couldn't use because it was way too intense. But he kept it and sent it to all of us in a group text before a game one time, and just listen to this if you want to get hyped up. It is electric.
You got to save that for your pregame routine.
The people, not everyone, people would get upset if they heard it.
Yeah, very fair.
All right, before we move on to the comments and questions, a shout out to Green Mountain Dental Group, just 15 minutes outside of downtown Denver over there in Lakewood. They are a family-owned dentist group that will take care of you. I know they're buzzing over there about the Avs game last night because they're true Colorado sports fans. They've supported us for a long, long time. Maybe one of, if not our longest standing partner. So huge shout out to Green Mountain Dental. If you guys need any work done, head over there. And if you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, they'll hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush.
And we've got to talk to the people now. Let's hop into the comment section over at thednvr.com. If you want to leave your comments, go to thednvr.com. At the top of the page, click on podcast. Scroll down to where it says Broncos. Click on Broncos. Then all of our podcasts will pull up. Click on the top one. That's our most recent. Scroll to the bottom. If you're a member, you will have your comments read. But I think we have some super chats first.
Yes, let's hit. Yes, these came from the original one, so we didn't forget you.
Yeah.
Great job by Allie to keep track of these. From Captain Groot. How come we never talk about bringing Kenny Young back? Am I missing critical information?
Well, the defensive coordinator on the Broncos now is Ejiro Evero. He worked for the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams deemed Kenny Young expendable at midseason, even though he was starting for them.
They did have, what's his name? Ernest Jones?
I believe so.
They really wanted to get him on the field, and he was awesome when he played.
Yeah, but still.
Yep.
I think when Evero, and he obviously wasn't the only Rams coach coming in, Dwayne Stukes came from the Rams coach special teams, and if you're going to be a linebacker, even a starter, you're inside linebacker, even starter, you're going to be on special teams. I think when you had people with the Rams coming in on those two phases, that probably was the end of Kenny Young as a Bronco.
Yep, it tells you everything you need to know. Yeah, you nailed it, Mace.
All right, let's get the next one here from Max Power. I know people are lukewarm on the draft, but what are we saying about Peyton if guys like Washington, Turner, Yell, etc. hit? Will people fully buy in and trust him? I think people already have fully bought in and trusted him.
100%. And now what happens is going into next year's draft, instead of not having high expectations because the Broncos don't have a first and second round pick, we definitely lowered our expectations on this draft, but the expectations for George Payton are going to be through the roof again next year.
I think right now George Payton can do no wrong, and that's why sometimes I'm like, okay, if he's here long enough, he is going to have a draft misses.
Right.
And he's going to have picks that miss, and he's going to have free agent pickups that miss. I mean, really, right now, the one miss generally is attributed to Vic Fangio because it's Kyle Fuller in free agency last year. Every GM, no matter how good they are, they're going to get up and they're going to swing and they're going to catch nothing but air. It'll happen, but that's why you look at the aggregate. You look at the bigger picture of the record. That's why with John Elway, you look at the broad spectrum of 10 years, and there were some good things and there were some bad things. I'd say John Elway isn't as good as people thought he was early in his tenure, and isn't as bad as he was as people thought late in his tenure.
Yeah, but he got a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And George Payton can have as many great drafts as he wants. If he doesn't get that, then it'll be considered a failure. And he can mess up a couple drafts, and if he does get it, then it'll all be considered a success.
People respected in internal league circles. People really respected what Rick Spielman and George Payton on the staff were doing in Minnesota for most of the 2010s, generally regarded to be a very good drafting team. Yet they came up short. Why? The biggest reason they came up short was because they didn't have the guy at quarterback.
Yep.
The closest they came as an organization was overtime back in 2009 with Spielman and Payton. The closest they came was with Brett Favre having a great Brett Favre season.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I credit George Payton for being. It's pretty evident that the lesson he learned from Minnesota was doesn't mean anything unless you have one of those guys at quarterback to push you over the top. And that, I think, is the most heartening thing that I've seen out of George Payton in his 16 months on the job is he learned the lesson from Minnesota that I think he needed to take.
Well, and what I think we should have realized back then is that this is kind of always their plan. Go all in on trying to get the right quarterback and then fill in all the pieces around them through the draft. This time they just actually got the right quarterback.
It's also not crazy to say that this is the only quarterback move George Payton has to make for the rest of his tenure as a Bronco.
You hope.
Very likely.
There's a chance he may want to do this for 2 decades, but if he just wants to do this for 10 years and retire, that'll be 2 big contracts. That could be enough.
Yep. All right, from the comment section, Squeaky Bum Time says, "Hey, fellas, love the show. If I were Peyton, I would wait to trade anyone until at least the middle of the season. Most of our players should and will look better because we have a quarterback that will increase the value for us."
Ooh, you know what? The thing is, if you're doing well and the quarterback is doing well, unless you've got someone great coming up in reserve who can take over, you're not making those trades. I mean, and the trades that Zach and I were talking about yesterday were guys that you're kind of like the Trinity Benson trade. Guys that you were either going to cut or they were on the fringe of your depth chart and are easily replaceable by somebody else.
Yeah, and here's where Squeaky Bum Time is right. If you're talking about one of the 4 wide receivers, the top 4 guys, yeah, let them go out in 8 games, get 600 yards, 5 touchdowns. Their trade value is so much higher than it is now. But as May said, most of the guys you're going to have to cut anyways, so you might as well get a 6th or 7th from them.
And if you're trading one of those guys, you're doing it after the season. You're not doing it during the season.
Right.
Like if a guy is off to a great start at wide receiver and you trade him at the trade deadline, even if you get a good deal, that conversation with Russ is going to be interesting.
It certainly would be.
Maybe George Payton can just trade Faion Hicks for a 6th-round pick to the Eagles like he did
There
with his
you go.
7th-round corner last year.
Exactly.
Keep drafting 7th-round
Maybe
corners
that's his
from
thing. He knows
Power 5 conferences.
He knows what some guy that some other team loves, and he's like, I'll just take this guy and trade him to him later.
Be really smart, especially when you want picks next year. Zia Tortilla says, "You got me. I've been following Mace for years and was devastated when his radio time came to an end. Grateful to have him and all of you guys to listen to. New Mexico green chili is way better, by the way. I am in Denver monthly for work. No comparison. Much love, though."
You know,
he's coming in spicy with his first comment.
You know what my take on this, and it might be like
cop out.
They're both so good. Why are we pitting them against each other?
Because people have to turn things into an either or zero sum thing. I like the chilies from New Mexico. I like the chilies from Colorado. And I'll be honest, I'm not enough of a connoisseur to where I can tell the difference. I'm a connoisseur on barbecue. I'm not a connoisseur on green chilies.
I'm like the most biased towards Colorado anything person there is, and never would I be like, oh, it's Hatch. No, thank you. You know,
right.
I'd be like, just give me green chili any way you can. I want it all.
If they're the top 2, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. And I respect your opinion. I just don't feel like we need to put down one to maybe that's my thing. We don't need to put down one to elevate the other.
And welcome. We love having you. Micah Pexa says, like Mace, my mother is from England. She's actually from London and very near Wembley Stadium. I'm from Hawaii, but my uncle still lives in the house they grew up in. And we have a long-standing agreement that if my Broncos ever went to play in London, that he'd pay for half of my airfare. I called him the minute the news came out, and as long as I can secure some tickets, it's on. I was praying that if it ever happened, that I would be at Wembley and not Tottenham, and I'm still stoked that I got my wish. Can't wait. Hope to be able to meet up with all you guys over there somewhere. Quick question. Who decided that the Broncos must be sold to the highest bidder and not the preferred or most qualified bidder? Thanks, and see you guys in London.
Pat Bolin.
Pat Bowlen trust. And part of it was like, it was all right. Well, if we're not keeping the team in the family, then it's all about getting every last dollar for the family.
And to be fair, Pat thought it was going to stay in the family.
Are you guys buying the group text that went out to reporters yesterday about how this thing is still a wide open race and blah, blah, blah?
I am buying the fact that they are going to have 5 people in and look at the facility still. And so it's not technically down to 2. I don't even think it's down to 2. It's down to if Rob Walton wants it, and he's still in this process, so he still wants it.
I imagine Rob Walton like with a monocle and a tobacco pipe, just like sitting there watching everyone make their bids, puffing on it, and then as soon as they're like, he's like, "You guys done? Done? What was that? 4.9. All right, 5.2. Let's go."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, if you're interviewing, if you have 5 candidates for a job, you probably have going in the process like them ranked. I mean, I think that going into the offseason after firing Vic Fangio, Broncos kind of had an idea how the candidates were ranked going in. I would even go as far as to say that Dan Quinn was the leader going into the process. Yeah. But then Nathaniel Hackett really impressed and moved his way up. So I'd say they have these 5 candidates, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But they do.
It's not even a choice. You know what I mean? It's not like a job interview where you choose the person at the end. They get to choose them. They just get to decide, and no one can even come close to competing with Rob
It has
Walton.
to still be approved by the league. I mean, that's where, the one thing about like the fiduciary responsibility is that the clause is if they're approved by the league, and that's why they're all vetted. And that's what, for example, I think would have prevented some, from some Russian oligarch from coming in and saying, okay, here's $8 billion. I'm buying the team today, because the league would have said, no, you're not buying the team.
But there's no reason the league would deny Rob Walton, right? Like with how public
at
he is,
this point now,
know.
the 5 that are in have been vetted by the league enough to where they're going to be approved.
Right, exactly.
If when one of them is presented before the entire group of owners, they'll be approved.
Right. Yep. So yeah. Also, like, there's got to be a better way than every single reporter tweeting out the same thing. There's got to be a better way.
Peyton is my Manning says, just booked our flights for the London game. Hopefully we'll be able to meet up with y'all. We have to bring our 11-year-old son. So hopefully a few of the locations will be kid-friendly. Can't wait.
I'm sure. Well, I don't know. I don't know London, so I couldn't tell you.
It's very true. It's very true. And man, it's gonna be an awesome week.
Yeah, but we are gonna have a full week of plans with all sorts of different stuff. So I'm sure we'll be able to meet up with you somewhere and have a good time.
Maybe you need to have kind of a public forum over. You guys ever heard of Speaker's Corner over in Hyde Park?
No.
I've heard of Hyde Park.
It's an area like where basically it's like people will spout whatever, and so you get like You get, like, for example, when I walked past there 12 years ago, like, you had a fundamentalist Christian and a fundamentalist Muslim, basically debating the tenets of their faiths.
Interesting.
And I guess, like, I'm thinking, like, maybe you have, like, a healthy Broncos debate of some kind over at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park one day.
Can we just do the podcast and have a healthy debate on that?
Yes, exactly.
All right, next one from Peyton is my Manning. Oh, no, that was him. From Speeve Madden. Hey, team. Not football related, but I was wondering if DNVR Bar displays Formula One races. Ever since the Drive to Survive series came out on Netflix, Formula One has been gaining lots of traction. Me and my friends try to watch as many races as possible. We all have our favorite drivers. There's this race at the new track in Miami and Las Vegas. Street Circuit was announced for 2023. Let me know your thoughts and keep up the great content. The only thing I know about it up to this point is that it's normally really early in the morning when we are not open.
Yeah, like just to kind of go through the next few races. Obviously, the Miami one is going to be at 1:30 p.m.
When tomorrow?
Coming up this weekend, the Miami GP.
Okay.
But then after that, the race times are 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 5 a.m., noon, that's the Canadian Grand Prix. 8 a.m., 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 7 a.m.
Right.
Russia canceled, 6 a.m., 11 p.m. the night before, until you
Look at that.
finally
You
get
watch that one.
Yep.
yeah until you finally get back to 1 p.m. For the race over at the Circuit of the Americas down outside of Austin.
Yeah.
Probably not
Yeah.
for most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not user friendly beyond the U.S. races, the Canadian Grand Prix, and then if you want to get everyone in for like a race from Japan or China
I've heard enough about this to believe
or
that
Brazil.
the answer is yes.
Brazil's
but,
11
like,
a.m. as well, but that's on a football Sunday maybe.
But like, I don't understand. How do you like? Is that really like a watch at a bar type of sport? Like
Probably some parts of the world.
Yeah.
do people watch NASCAR at bars?
I'm
Probably
sure.
in the South.
But like, is that
some
like
parts
a
of
true
the South,
like,
they do.
bar watching sport? It just doesn't seem like it to me. But
The thing that works
I
against
don't.
the-
I have no interest in it.
Well,
so
the
I
thing
don't
that
know.
works against NASCAR races watching the bars that they're long. Like sometimes
what I mean.
Very
they're
long.
like an F1 race. Kind of the joy of it is you're usually in and out in 2 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like a soccer game.
Interesting.
You know, the time, the length of the race works in favor of it being something watchable at a bar. NASCAR races just kind of go on and on and on, and so I mean, unless you're willing to commit some 4 hours in the bar, it's not going to really work.
I don't even want to try to like explain why I don't like it because I feel like I'll end up like putting it down but like it really doesn't get the juices flowing for me.
I would agree. I think F1 would be a little more interesting than NASCAR.
I'm sure it is, for sure. I'm sure it is. And like there's very clearly a lot of skill involved
Sure.
because there's the best. It's not just like a crapshoot every week. But I don't know. I've never been able to get into it. I couldn't even get into the racing video games.
I did 1 year. Only 1 year. I can get into Madden every year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like I don't have a full iRacing setup, but I do love like racing video games more than other sports video games.
Okay.
Like going back, I go all the way back to like playing pole position back in the 80s.
Love it.
Like
Wow.
I've always loved racing games.
There was Midnight Club Dub Edition. Got into that. It's the only one I ever got into.
Yeah.
That sounds like something we may be getting into tonight.
Yeah.
And there was one on Nintendo that like you would also be able to play it like Red Robin with like the actual thing. What was that
Right.
called?
No.
Red Robin. I don't know about that.
So not Mario Kart.
No. This was like more realistic cars and stuff.
Like Red Robin driving.
No, like that they just had the
Well,
machine there in the arcade.
Do you remember the old
Oh.
Daytona USA arcade things that you like sit down?
Right.
And,
It's kind of
Yeah.
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Damn. So it was called something USA, but it wasn't Daytona.
Oh, I know what you're talking. I had that game on Nintendo.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, that was a blast. Yeah, that was my favorite game on
Cruisin' USA.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh man,
go.
I can think of the music now.
Let's go. Cruising.
Oh man,
That put me in a good
I
mood.
want to play that.
It's a good way to finish things up.
Yep. My goal for next week is to get Wisconsin references into every podcast.
There we go.
All right,
I
there
love
you
it.
All right, that
For
is
reasons we'll detail later.
going to wrap it up for us here on the DNVR Broncos podcast today. Thanks to everyone who participated. Also, everyone who came over after the technical difficulties we had there in the middle of the show. If you're watching the second part of the show, this on YouTube, and you're confused, there is a part 1 as well. So hop back over there. But appreciate all you guys for tuning in, and thank you for another great week. We'll catch you next week.